So all of our food work started during the COVID crisis. A few of us moms in the neighborhood were getting quite worried about what would happen when schools closed, in terms of what would happen to families who were getting free school meals, because we knew some of our neighbors had 3, 4, 5 kids. When you add that up, 5 meals a week, you're talking about 15 to 25 extra meals a week, when there was not very much food actually in the shops. So we kind of got this group of people together who were willing to cook extra 1 day a week for the families, and we had about 12 families signed up. And that was on a Friday that we kind of decided to do the rota. The next Monday, there were actually 300 families signed up from all over the country. So people expressing needs with food, getting food access in Devon and Blackpool and places I had to actually look up. I had no idea where they were. So I started kind of getting in touch with Fair Share and doing a lot of research on how to triage people to their various food banks. Then I just decided I'll do something different. So I kind of thought, okay, what I'll do is try to send people food once a week that they can make at home, to try to top them up so that they will be going to the shops less. So they can go to the shop once a week, but they could have something coming in another time a week, another time later in the week they knew they could rely on for food. And all of that came from surplus at the time. So I literally just went down to Food Hub for our first big distribution. Kathy, who was the manager at the time, kind of said, well, what are your credentials? I said, I have no credentials, but I have, a couple hundred people who need food. I'm sending this van to Bister and that van to Kidlington. And she said, you have a kind face, and filled up the vans, and off they went. And there were 295 people supported by that first distribution. And then after that, basically, once a week I would have food. I would sort of get the food, parcel it up safely, and then have a roto of drivers meet me at my house, and we would fill up their cars out of the garage and send them off for their routes, for weeks. Well, first of all, I'm going to just start with the volunteers, because they're actually the most important part of anything that we do here. In the beginning of COVID, a lot of people were really keen to help, right? And so we had police force and teachers and nurses and all sorts of people really wanting to volunteer. But there was a massive dropout rate in the volunteers, because as people started to go back to work, they had other things to do, or started getting more calm about the situation, and it didn't feel as much as like an emergency, but a longer lasting crisis, people would drop out. And as that started happening, we still had a growing number of people who needed help and support with food and other essentials. So I actually reached out to the houses that were receiving parcels, because anyone could receive a parcel, and said, is there anyone who would be willing to deliver to your neighbors? And that's how we got our core volunteers. Steve is one of the originals who came to my garage. He and Janet would fill up their car, go deliver to 20 houses, come back, fill it up again, deliver to the other houses. They took care of an entire village by themselves during COVID. So the volunteers are really people who I think understand, the importance of helping one another, being a hand that reaches out and says, take my hand and let me help you through this. And I think the volunteers also really understand the importance of reducing waste. And a lot of them have, lived in a way that that knowledge sharing and the skills sharing and the living within your resources is just kind of part of daily life. And so we've been able to build this kind of beautiful waste reduction center together, because it's part of everyone's kind of ethos. So they're incredible. I had called every church, every community center for miles to try to do it, not in my garage. But anyways, I went to Kidlington Parish Council and I said, I know that you have the hall closed, but is there anything you can do? And so they opened up at first just the foyer for us. And so we would come in, clean the foyer, put the food down, get the food out, clean the foyer again, lock it up and go every Saturday. So it was kind of a sort of 4-hour process to get all of the deliveries out. And then they said, well, we're not using the hall for anything else. So they started letting us have storage here. They started letting us have multiple places to pack stuff, which actually meant I could get more volunteers on site, because we could safely socially distance several stations. And then they allowed us to have a small marketplace. So I could allow the drivers who came in to kind of do their own shop, and then take just the pre-made parcels to people they were delivering to. And that was kind of the precursor to the sort of model you see here. So we still do emergency parcels. We still will pack parcels for people. But we think it's a bit more dignified for people to have the option to come and choose what they take home. One thing that's really important here is we do a lot of community consultation about what services do they want, what do they like or not like about whatever we're doing. We sent a survey out to try to understand what types of food people felt they needed. So we literally asked, like, do you want pasta? Do you want tins? Do you want dairy? You know, what do you want? And across all of these people, the only sort of winner in our questionnaire was whatever would otherwise be wasted. So 40% of the people wanted that. And the next biggest number was, I think, 15% said they wanted basic essentials, you know, milk, bread, things like that. So 40% of the people who we were delivering to, who at that time were around 650 households or something, agreed that what they really wanted was to make sure food wasn't wasted. Right. We want to make sure it's not wasted. We want to save it from landfill. And something that's really quite beautiful that's come out of what we do is that we have these mass distributions, and it's quite clear that the community as a whole, people in general, are disgusted by food going to landfill. They hate it. Across the board, they hate it. We all hate it. No one wants food going there. Everyone has felt those tinges of hunger, right? Everyone can kind of estimate what that would feel like if you were feeling like that for 1 hour, 2 hours, 6 hours, 2 days. No one wants anyone to feel that way, and no one wants to waste food that could go to someone who's hungry, right? So it's actually a great unifier of people across walks of life. And it's brilliant to see people come together. So like during Christmas holidays, 2,000 people came around here to save food from landfill. And we celebrated it together, and it was hard work. 30 tons of food came through. People from all different socioeconomic statuses, just all walks of life come in here, same goal, save it from landfill, get it to people who will eat it, make sure that the farmer's work, the life of the animals and the plants is not wasted and doesn't go into the bin. So in the beginning, it was just basically food that we could put out. Now that we're here Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays from 11 to 2, we can have the basic essentials in the marketplace of food, clothing, appliances, crockery, anything like that, toiletries. We have seated exercise on a Thursday morning. We also have Citizens Advice join us on Thursdays. Fridays we'll have breastfeeding support here quite regularly. We have the Samaritans in quite regularly. We also have Cherwell District Council's team here because a lot of those local centers kind of closed during COVID and didn't open again. So now we sort of have pop-up spaces for them. We'll have LGBTA support here as well. We also have the cafe open now, again, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays for lunch. The cafe uses only surplus as well. And we try to have additional activities during that time just to kind of create a little bit of a community hub, and a lot of times in response to what people say they want.